So, welcome back to today's show. We're going to be deep diving in the world of classic, specialty, and collector cars with a guest who knows this industry inside out. Daren Roberge is a leading expert in collector car marketing, CEO of Motorworks Marketing, and a recognized voice in the automotive auction scene. From hosting elite car events to analyzing the market trends, he's seen it all. So let's get it started. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's go a little bit into your background, early influences. I read some of your stories, and your passion for automobiles began with visits to your grandfather's motorcycle dealerships and experiences with your uncles. How did these early experiences influence your career in the collector car industry?
I was born and bred to doing what I'm doing right now. My family was always invested in one capacity or another in collector cars, and racing was a really big component of my grandfather's career as well as my uncle's career. And that converted over into a dealership experience they had. They were always exposing me to interesting cars that they had, interesting motorcycles. For Christmas, I always got model cars and Matchbox cars. I had subscriptions to Road and Track, jackets, hats, that kind of stuff. They really pushed this passion that they had onto me. And now it's something I've been doing for a little over a decade. And it's great. I love it.
Okay, so the transition to marketing, I want to put a little bit of that. After starting at Russo and Steel Collector Automobile Auctions in 2014, you founded Motorworks Marketing in 2017. What actually motivated you to establish your own agency focusing on classic and specialty automotive industry?
I think you have to go back even further a little bit on that. The
Mm.
marketing bug transitioned in the middle. For me, it's always been really three things. It's been animals, it's been guitars, and it's been cars and motorcycles. So for a long time, I was in the music industry. I was doing punk rock shows. I was in a signed and touring band, et cetera. So what I did from there was stumble into the collector car business. And I took a lot of the things that I learned from promoting music events into promoting collector cars and collector car events, et cetera. And it revitalized the industry a little bit at the time, considering what's happening from a marketing standpoint in the collector car auction in particular space. So I was able to do that for quite a while. You either love it or you hate it. The people that love it, it never really gets out of their system completely. And it's something that kind of always sticks with them in some capacity. So when my time at Russo, I decided was over, it became a situation where I just kind of didn't really know what to do with myself and just on a whim right before the SEMA show, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with in Las Vegas every year. I just threw it against the wall. Me and a friend and my father threw together a website real quick. I went out to
Yeah.
SEMA, launched, and the rest is history.
Yeah, take advantage of a situation and an opportunity that was actually there. What current trends do you observe in the classic and collector car market currently happening right now?
It's a really interesting time. Right now in the collector car market, we're coming out of a really scary time. 2024 was an absolutely terrible year for the collector car space. It was actually the
Mhm.
worst year we've had in almost 30 years. However, we are very clearly at the beginning of a significant rebound. The Amelia Island and Miami auctions concluded last week, and there was a tremendous amount of positive. Most notably, we know where the market's going next now. Retro and early 2000s Porsches are really hot and they're exploding in price right now. The high end has returned to the marketplace. For example, Broad Arrow Auctions and Orem Sotheby's all sold their big cars either at or above estimate throughout the entire series of events in Florida. And that has not happened in a couple of years. So I think
Mm.
what we're seeing is the best of the best cars are pulling the best of the best money right now. And meanwhile, the incoming generation that is Gen Z or the Gen X and millennial generation that are just getting into those discretionary income type of years are really super interested in retro and early 2000s supercars, primarily Porsche.
Okay, what type of money are we looking at? What's the budget for something like coming into the market?
That's one of the things that's really good about right now and actually has been really positive over the last couple of years is there's more paths of entry into the collector car space now than there's ever been before. We've got over 100 years of cars that are basically considered collectors. We've had the manufacturers playing into the collectability side of some of the models they've released, most notably the GT500 Shelby, the Ziola Camaro, the Hellcat Challenger from Dodge. And there's been a ton of Nissan R35 Skyline GTR
Mm.
models that have come out that are limited edition, special edition, et cetera, that have the potential to be very collectible, as well as Toyota has played into that with their Supra as well. Tremendous amount of places you can go, and there's a tremendous amount of places that you can get your foot wet. If you want to spend 10 grand, you can now do that pretty effectively. You get a pretty cool car. If you want to spend $10 million, there's plenty of options out there. If you want to spend $100 million, there's options out there. So
Wow.
for anybody that's like thinking about, I want to get out of the market, it's a little too weird right now, and I was looking to get into something that's a little bit more tangible, collector cars tend to do really well in times like right now. Example, the best years we've seen for the collector car market have been 2008 to 2014 when the Enzo era Ferraris took off like crazy. And it looks like some of those Porsches maybe getting ready to do that now.
Yeah, everybody always wants their hands on a Porsche. People are just buying them, putting them away without even driving them off the lot. Are there any specific models or era gaining popularity among collectors right now?
I think anything that's low production, exotic, special auctions, anything like that from the 80s and the 90s are really popular right now. The early 2000s, we're starting to see that kind of take off as well. There's a lot of good examples that reside within that area. The Porsche 993s are really excellent. A lot of the water-cooled Porsches are really exploding in value right now. I'm a big fan of things like Ferrari 550s. I think they've cooled off at least to a little bit of a degree, but what a great car. You get one of those with a 6-speed transmission. It's about the most classic modern Ferrari that you hope to get. And they're beautiful to look at, too. You touched on the JDM thing with the Toyota Supra.
Yeah.
We've got a whole generation of incoming potential future collectors that grew up on Gran Turismo and Fast and Furious movies and things of that nature. And the hero cars in those games were things like JDM cars. And now that the 25-year-old gray law has been lifted for almost everything that's cool, most notably the R34 Skyline, which would pull crazy money right now, there's a lot of different options, a lot of different things that you can do there now as well. So I think if you stay within that age range between probably 1980 and like 2006 or 2007, when the analog thing still existed, before computers completely took over all of our cars and isolated us from the road to the degree that I think is detrimental long term,
Yeah.
you're pretty safe in any of those categories there.
How has marketing within the collector car industry evolved over the years? Meaning, what strategies have proven most effective in reaching collector car enthusiasts and potential buyers?
Well, we've come across quite a few transition periods with marketing since I've been doing this. When I walked into the space in 2014, everything was white border, picture a car on grass, calligraphy type of font, boring, basically. It was the same thing over and over again. You open a car magazine, it's the same ad over and over again. So I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and we're going to take rock coasters from the 1960s and 1970s, Monterey Pop Festival, Woodstock, things of that nature, and we're going to turn those into ads for collector car stuff. And now we're starting to see a lot more of that creativity that has exploded and transitioned in a bunch of different ways. On Sotheby's, I think, has really done a fantastic job recently with their Rudy Klein Junkyard collection. They had some really creative, brilliantly cool marketing for that. It's produced really serious bids for them. From the standpoint of like listings, you think about a listing for a collector car, you think about opening up the classified section of picking up an auto trader. Those days are long dead. And Bring a Trailer is really responsible for revitalizing the way that people sell their cars online, between the vetting that happens in the comment section, but that's not even necessarily the whole picture there, is they've set a standard for photography and video quality that is extremely high on Bring a Trailer. And now that has transitioned over into all different other segments of the marketplace. So that's been interesting. And we're also starting to see the transition from print to digital really become a thing. With this space, however, because nostalgia is such an integral component of what people do this for, there's still a premium that's placed on print advertising. That print is the most affluent, most like highest brow version of advertising, but you need to have the digital media. You need to have the good looking videos. You need to have the high resolution images that aren't overly branded and obnoxious. You need to have a good social media presence. You need to be doing email marketing. Email marketing is one of the most significant services that we offer. And we are absolutely beyond the shadow of an industry leader in that segment. And our clients love it because it's effective. Bottom line, it's a combination approach now with a little bit of public relations thrown in as well. These are expensive cars that you need to be able to attract the right buyers, which means you have to do the work on the ground in order to get them sold.
Yeah, you're doing the groundwork. You'll get in the ads out, you're doing the marketing. So let's go into the hosting part of it. Now that the word is out and you're trying to get people to come and look at these cars and to have the auction and the bidding. So you hosted events like the Concours in the Hills and the Copper State 1000 kickoff. Can you share any memorable moment from any of these events and discuss their significance in the collector car community?
Events are always going to be a big part of the collector car space just because people want to get together, they want to exchange ideas, they want to show off their cars, they want to learn about other people's cars. So the heart of everything that we do with collector cars, it's number one, not about cars, it's about people. and people want to be able to get together and socialize and create a community around those cars. I've been fortunate enough to be involved with a number of things, including the two events that you mentioned, as well as I'm the current custodian and caretaker of Arizona Car Week, which is one of the 3 biggest Car Week events in the United States. As far as the hosting components, you think you just go up there and you be the guy on the microphone and talk about cool cars, and that's definitely part of it, but you got to put together a program, and it's complicated. And the thing that I like about Concours in the Hills versus Copper State 1000, and they're both very close to each other. The Copper State 1000 kickoff is on April 6th, and the Concours in the Hills is on April 19th, so they're back-to-back on each other. The Copper State 1000 kickoff is a car show on the grass inside of a baseball stadium. So I'm standing basically on the pitcher's mounds announcing cars as they go through, and it's really fast, and it's like an acid trip almost, because once you start, it goes so quick that you don't remember anything, and then all of a sudden it's over. So for that, I'm announcing like 90 cars in 60 minutes. Definitely not for the faint of heart on that one, but I genuinely enjoy it because it is a really challenging event to keep a handle on. Because again, I've got to know something about every single one of these cars across the field and heads out on the tour. And I've got a baseball stadium of people that I have to engage while doing that. So that's memorable because it's not memorable. Whereas the other side, the Concours in the Hills, is a very large event. About 1,500 cars, draws about 50,000 people annually.
Wow.
And that's about an 8-hour experience to do that, but it moves much slower, and maybe we get much more in depth with owners and people in the community and so on, which makes that event a lot of fun. And most importantly, it raises like $500,000 a year for Phoenix Children's Hospital, which if you're not familiar, Phoenix Children's Hospital is basically a no-cost hospital. Children that have debilitating health issues are able to go to Phoenix Children's Hospital, receive health care for free. They don't have to worry about bills. They take care of their family's expenses, et cetera, et cetera. What they do is incredibly important work. And the fact that we get to raise the amount of money that we do for a cause like that is it's really an honor.
Okay, glad you put that in. A lot of people are aware of some of the contributions that goes along with these shows. It's not just about marketing and fanfare or anything else. There's always a positive cause. But you went into some of the challenges hosting these car shows. But in terms of how do you address to ensure that some of these gatherings are actually successful?
It's pretty easy to tell. People are leaving with a smile. For the nonprofits, Copper State 1000 is also a nonprofit event. It benefits the Men's Arts Council and the Phoenix Art Museum. These are great cars. Is everyone having fun? And do you raise a bunch of money for a worthwhile cause? And if you hit those marks, then you can pat yourself on the back of your job.
And the other challenges you would like to share in terms of hosting these events?
The initial marketing part of it, because these are nonprofit events and it takes a tremendous amount of volunteers to put these together, especially Concours in the Hills. It's hundreds of people. And trying to wrangle all that together, get the marketing together, get it out, get the word out, get people excited. It's not easy to do sometimes. And it's just the nature of the game with it. And candidly, I really enjoy that side of it. I like the sort of the wrangling component, driving people along to get stuff done, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, it's like standing on the edge of Mount Everest, looking over the side and realizing you just climbed it. So there's certain elements of that I definitely enjoy.
I can hear the passion in your voice. You really enjoy what you do in terms of getting the word out and getting people there, because that's the most important thing. Putting bodies in those seats and then people leaving with a smile on their face means you got the job done. But reflecting on your career, is there a particular classic or exotic car that's left a lasting impression on you personally, either due to its history, design, or personal significance?
It's really hard because so many cars do so many different things, and that's how people wind up owning hundreds of cars.
I designed this question specifically for you.
For me personally, I mean, I love the Ferrari 275. I love the Ferrari 330 GTS. I think that's the best driving all-around Ferrari of all time. 1967, 1968. The GTC as well can fall under that. It's a fabulous platform, amazing car. I love Jaguar E-types, anything Alfa Romeo. I love motorcycles, mid-century Italian racing bikes are a huge passion of mine.
Right.
My car is not the most glamorous car in the world, and I catch a lot of crap for it because it's not the most valuable. It's not the most highly restored. In fact, actually, when we did restore it, we left a lot of the patina. We rebuilt a lot of things on there with internal parts that are new, but left the crusty outside on purpose. And a lot of people really don't like that, and they judge me for it a little bit. It does everything I want. It does all the things all my favorite cars do, but in a slower, easier to live with capacity to where it keeps me grounded at the end of the day. I watch people get into this business and overdo it and get themselves in trouble and kind of get yeeted out of it. And that car really helps keep me grounded. So if there's a car that's touched me most specifically over the course of my career, it's probably my Alfa Romeo Resto mod that I have. It's not by any means the most exclusive, most edgy, most beautiful car in the world, but it retains my personality in car form, and it makes sure that I don't lose that component of myself when I'm dealing with celebrities or $10 million cars or fleets of cars or a number of other things that can blow things out of proportion for you mentally, change the world for you and how you look at the world. Because of that car, I've really been able to stay myself through this entire process, and I think that's been pretty important.
That's your project car that you turn into your personal dream car, which is now your work car, but don't take it for granted.
We restored it twice. I was almost done restoring it. I was about probably 3 weeks away from restoring it. There was a construction accident in my house, and the car was destroyed with a good proportion of my house. We didn't even hesitate. As soon as we got the car back from insurance, we started over. We redid the whole thing. So I've some stupid amounts of money and time into a car that's not really worth very much, but it's like a part of my family. We will never sell it.
Yeah, it's a passion, it's a hobby, and once you're doing something that you actually enjoy, it's not work. How has the collector community evolved during your tenure here? You mentioned you've been doing it for the last 14 years. What role do you see it playing in preserving automotive history for future generations?
I think it's important to understand what is different between the generations. Right now, we're in the middle of a generational shift, and some of the cars from the 50s and 60s and early 70s that I think probably were the pinnacle of car design overall are a little bit less appealing to some of the new buyers that are coming into the marketplace, which underscores the importance of making sure that we maintain and keep on our history.
So it's old money versus new money.
A lot of new money came into the market in 2008 to 2014. A lot of Wall Street money came in. So quite a bit of that around that's keeping it going. But I think it's important for people to understand where cars come from. I had an interesting conversation with somebody recently. Their function in the world of collector cars is documents and literature visit. And they ran into somebody at a fairly high profile show recently that had a very significant car that this particular person had a lot of early history in their custody of this car. And the gentleman that owned the car was probably in his 50s or something, or early in his 50s. And this person approached and offered to give the owner all of this documentation, all these records, original factory pictures of the car, like really cool stuff.
Wow.
And the owner of this car flat out shot him down. There's no read. Why would I need this stuff? Lack of gratitude is something we need to try to make sure that we don't fall into.
Right.
Because again, these are pieces of history. And
Of
cars
history.
are what the world operates on. United States, Italy, UK, Germany, it doesn't matter. It's an international thing that countries have contributed their own flavor to. And historically, they become important as a result. So we need to not lose sight of what these things actually are. And we need to make sure that we continue to understand the historical importance and maintain that historical importance after the next generation and the generation after that. Now, I will say this. There's been a resurgence of pre-war cars in the marketplace lately, and it's overwhelmingly been younger buyers that are getting involved at that level.
I read that as well.
And it's very interesting because those people in particular seem to be the history buffs that are in common. So it's great that those people are out there. We can encourage those people. There's a lot of really nicely restored E-types out there that people spent tens of dollars, thousands of dollars to make sure that those cars remain as nice as they are and can still have homes moving forward, because those are important pieces of who we are.
It's customer awareness and customer education is always paramount, especially here in the automotive industry. How do you see the role of online communities and virtual events impacting the future of classic car collections? Because I know you have to utilize it now in terms of social media and email marketing and everything else. But how does that impact how people go about collecting these classic cars?
I think that there's a couple of different segments that get affected differently by that. How you buy your car is much more digitally influenced than it was even 3 or 4 years ago. And Bring a Trailer has been a major reason for that. I've done a fantastic job of figuring out how to capture the people that...
Could you repeat the name?
Bring a Trailer.
Okay.
They've also developed the vetting process through their comment section. So it's difficult to slip a vehicle that is misrepresented through Bring a Trailer now, because again, it requires such high level video and photography. And because the people in the comments are such experts at this point, they can tear a car apart, rattle a whole series of problems that save the buyers a lot of difficulty. So from the perspective of buying, digital is going to continue probably even further. I don't think we'll ever all the way lose the live auction just because it's an experience. It is like going to a rock concert or something like that. And it's a meeting place as well. As far as events go, however, we tried the virtual event thing during the pandemic a little bit. And I think if there was an opportunity for that really to take off, that would have been it. What we're seeing now, however, is events happening, people going out, doing their thing, showing their cars, taking pictures, etc., and then sharing them to broader communities, which then almost act like a secondary event site after the fact. For example, when we were doing Arizona Car Week, we just basically opened up all the social media. Basically, it was open season on collaborations. If you send us something that's cool and collab from it, we'll accept and we'll go. It turned into a situation where we were getting like 200,000 views a week on that thing. It was because people were just using it like a car show, but online. So I think there's room for both in the event space. I think the sales space probably is going to continue to get more and more online oriented, but we'll see how it ends up working out. People like to look at stuff in person, especially when they're spending millions of dollars.
That is true. I went to the Canadian Auto Show here in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, and I just turned on my phone, start filming, and I was surprised to see like over 190 people at one point just watching online as I scanned the cars. So there is a market for everything. And if people appreciate the content, they will actually tune in. But what advice would you offer to individuals aspiring to enter the collector car industry, whether as marketers, analysts, or enthusiasts?
This business is hard. That would be number one. I think a lot of people fail in this business very quickly. For example, the group of guys and girls that I came in with initially was probably like 50 or 60 people deep, and there's 3 of us left now. One is part-time.
Hold on, you said 50 or 60?
Yeah. So it's
wow.
It's very difficult to survive here. It's very competitive and it's very cutthroat. One of the other things that I tend to run into running around in Arizona is everybody thinks that everybody gets along, like as far as the different auction houses and stuff. And that is definitely not true. We are all competing very hard against each other for the same cars, the same buyers, et cetera. And a lot of times those cars and those buyers will significant amounts of money. So understand that if you're not comfortable getting in the mud and throwing punches and getting punched back, this is probably not the business for you. People tend to come into this industry with the TV version of it, thinking that what they're going to do is play with Concours level cars all day long. And then in 6 months, they're going to wind up with their own TV show. Yeah, and that doesn't really happen. It's a very ugly business. It's used cars, but it's very expensive used cars. It's a very different marketplace than the passenger car space is, but the competition is very real. It's very there. I probably not worked less than 75 hours in 10 years. My last vacation was in 2013. I frequently am over 100 hours a week. And part of it is because I love doing it, don't get me wrong, but you got to stay ahead of everybody else all the time. That's the reality of the situation. The market moves extremely quickly and you need to be right on top of everything that happens and all the shifts and all the news and all the changes. So it's a lot. If you're planning on coming in as a collector and enthusiast, it's pretty easy and it's pretty fun. But if you're going to do this as your primary income and do this every day, your best path of entry right now would be to become a tech. There's a big shortage of people that want to work on collector cars, and the money is very significant for people that are coming up who have talent, who are willing to do things like work on 1930s Rolls Royces or Enzo Ferraris or 90s Porsches or things of that nature. So I would say don't follow my lead necessarily, but you do definitely wear a helmet and get insurance because you're going to need both of them. But if I were to do this again, or if I had a child that was wanting to get into this industry, what I would recommend is that they go to McPherson or one of the specialty collector car oriented restoration programs that are out there. And there's a bunch of good ones. There's a bunch of good organizations that'll even pay for you to go. Piston Foundation or PM Foundation, et cetera, are out there and ready to grant scholarships to people that want to continue the legacy of these collector cars. I had somebody that I cared about that was coming up and wanted to get into this space. That's probably where I would send.
Okay. There is a shortage of mechanics everywhere, including now, is now affecting even the aviation industry. Good luck trying to get these guys to come and work on collector cars from the 1930s all the way up till now. And it's one of those things that we face right now in the automotive industry, because what I try to do is to let people know that there are so many different facets in the industry. and this is one of them, classic car collection. There's also another one going on right now. And what is your take on classic car conversions?
I think there's a special place in hell for those people, to be honest. If you've got a car that is a messed up resto mod or something from the early 2000s that is not a numbers matching car that maybe has some checkered history behind it or something, yeah, yank it out. Throw it on EV motor in there if you want. That's cool. Don't do it to an E-Type Jag. Don't do it to a Ferrari. Don't do it to something that is low production that's irreplaceable. Don't do it to a matching numbers muscle car.
Mhm.
I don't think that it's appropriate for anybody to do that, to anything, to be perfectly honest. But
Mhm.
if you're going to do it, make sure that you're ethical about it and you're not destroying history in the process.
Yeah, because I've seen the videos where people are taking these classic Mustangs and they're doing electric vehicle conversion on them. And it's heart rendering, but you see the cause. But at the same time, now you're saying, why are you messing with a good thing? And it's really messed up to see something like that. I understand exactly what they're trying to do, what they're trying to prove. But like you said, some things are best left alone. Don't mess with nature. So that is a part of our nature right there. Classic cars. How do people get in touch with you? What if someone wants to join your show, join your organization, follow you? Share with us.
There's a bunch of ways to do it. Probably the easiest way to do it is go to Motorworks official website. It's www.motorworks, MOTORWERKS, marketing.com. Again, motorworksmarketing.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Daren Motorworks, DARIN, MOTORWERKS. And there's a link tree there that'll take you to virtually everything. I also invite people to sign up for my newsletter. We give out all kinds of interesting insights on the classic and collector car market, as well as we have a news segment. We've got some new things coming as well. So join about 20,000 other enthusiasts and hop on that mailing list. Join our community.
Yeah, Daren, thank you again. It's always a pleasure to be with people working behind the scenes, allowing the world to see what they do and how most of us, what we do and take for granted in terms of here in the automotive industry. Be sure to subscribe and join, as you may never know who will be joining us next. So until next time.